this is Dean on the scene for the Rogers Review, and this is the Farpoint edition of the interview where we interview the people and the places and the faces who make the entertainment world go round. For this edition, my fellow fandom friends in the universe, Farpoint 2022 is back in style for its 29th, can you believe it's 29 years. And our next guest is the Chanteuse of Southern Maryland, which is wonderful. Drag performer, cosplayer, theater artist, hosted of Eleanor's new Deal Cabaret, which is coming back for its triumphant return on March 27th. But you'll get to see her and a few more queens to Farpoint and Beyond on Saturday, 4 p.m. That's next Saturday. We have DMandaMartini. Demanda, welcome to the interview.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. What a lovely introduction. You hit all of the points.
Well, I have to do my research, especially interviewing a queen like you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to come back to Farpoint. It is one of the highlights of my convention season.
Well, that is great to hear. So how many years has it been since you attended your very first Farpoint?
So I am still fairly new. So this will be my third Farpoint. Nice. Oh, no, excuse me. Fourth Farpoint, because I did do the virtual one last year.
Okay.
So I've done, yes, I've done 4. This will be my 4th.
Excellent. Well, that's great to hear. I've been with Farpoint since, 1999. So it's been several years.
Wow.
Oldie but a goodie, but what can I say? So you are wearing your newest cosplay for the people to see and hear. Tell us about this newest cosplay that you have.
Yes, so this is, again, you can kind of see her right there.
Yes.
Ilyana Rasputin, Magic from the New Mutants. So this is one of her graduation costumes. So the New Mutants, again, for people who may not know, are an offshoot of the XMen, the first sort of young student after the first class. Because after the first class happened, yes, there were new members, but no one was really students again. Mm-hmm. So the New Mutants introduced in 1983, I believe.
Whoa.
But anyway, so after they sort of graduated from the school, they all got these uniforms, but they never really stuck. The New Mutants team really kept going back to their old school uniforms. And even today, even in the age of Krakoa, for those of you who follow the X-Men, a lot of them still go back to the old black and gold student uniforms. But anyway, this is one of her graduation costumes from the 80s when they so Magneto was their teacher and they were sneaking out at night to go fight crime, so they all decided to wear masks, and it's just girl, you're still not wearing gloves, so they're still gonna find out who you are. And also these blonde blunt bangs are very iconic, people know who you are, girl.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I'd already so one of the reasons that I did this, number one, is because I love doing lesser known outfits and costumes of characters, because there's sort of the same ones that you see all the time. And again, if those are your favorite costumes and those are the cosplays that you want to do, please continue to do them. People do, cosplays for everyone, and everyone's allowed to do whatever they want.
Absolutely.
But I like to do the deep cuts, the cosplays that you don't see very often. Yes. And honestly, I spent $13 on this sweater and $5 on this mask, and everything else I already had. So,
hey, that's amazing.
It was just sort of yeah, that's easy. A friend of mine, I believe on Twitter, posted a picture of this outfit, and I was like, oh yeah. And then I was like, I just need a red sweater and a black mask, and I'm good to go.
Well, you're good and ready to go, and I'm so glad I got to preview this right in front of me. So I see from the background you are a huge X-Men fan. I love it. So since you're a fan like me, even though I'm not an X-Men fan, I'm a Star Trek fan, I always like to ask some of our fans, what was the moment you realized that fandom was the right thing for you to be in? When do
Oh,
you remember getting that first taste?
I mean, okay, so a couple stories. So I'm a storyteller. I love to tell stories and anecdotes.
Go for
So
it.
I mean, ever since I was little, I've just always been sort of obsessed with stories and make believe and all of that. I would say like the first sort of fandom that I entered, before the word fandom was really a thing, was probably Star Wars. I remember that was like the first movie that I like really remember seeing and being like, oh, okay, like this is like nerdy stuff. I mean, even before I even understood like really what nerdy was.
Oh yeah.
But and I've told this story often, so I'm not gonna, bore your listeners with it.
It's all right.
But I got into comics through trading cards. In 1990, the first Marvel trading cards came out, and I discovered a bunch of characters that I liked. The first one was Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde, and that sort of like put me right into comics. And then I really got obsessed with the X-Men, people with powers, and all of these things were so cool. I also watched at the time there were reruns of the old Wonder Woman TV show, which if I flipped my camera this way, you would see like all of the Wonder Woman
Nice.
in my house. However, also, so this is a good story. I don't think I've told this one before. So I remember being very, I guess not very little, but my family had just gotten home from the movies, and I went to go watch TV, and I turned on Star Trek: The Next Generation, which I had been watching. But so I didn't have cable or anything. I mean, this was way back in the day. Star Trek came on like channel 20. Again, if you're like
in
local,
Washington D.C.
Yes.
Yep,
yes.
That was WDCA 20 because that's how I grew up on Star Trek Next Generation myself.
Yeah. I was gonna say, so if people are like local, like they know channel 20, and it came on like randomly, but like in syndication, but it was like definitely like Saturday afternoons, Saturday evenings, and it was the episode where Tasha Yar dies.
Skin of Evil,
and
yes.
I was inconsolable. Like literally, my dad had to like take me outside and like walk me around because I was crying because she was my favorite character. I was just so heartbroken, and then come to find out it was because like the actress just wanted to get off the show. But anyway, so I really loved Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then when LwaxanaTroi was introduced, the Auntie Mame of space.
Yes.
I just became obsessed with her and all of her appearances, and so I do have a LwaxanaTroi cosplay, which I premiered at my first Farpoint 4 years ago now. What is time anymore?
Yeah.
now that we've been home. But hold on, pause 1 second. Sure. She's right here.
Oh wow, the original action figure. I love it.
Yep. So Miss Carol, who is the lady who makes a lot of the stuff for like when I need like custom things made, she made this dress for me.
Nice.
And then got me this action figure like right before I left for my first Farpoint, which was so lovely and awesome. So anyway, so she is making a reappearance this year at the show on Saturday at Farpoint. I figured who else to host the first drag show at Farpoint Convention than LwaxanaTroi. I mean,
yes, that is honestly, and that leads to a great segue in my next question. We are about to have the first drag show at Farpoint in almost 30 years. That is amazing. 4 p.m. at the Hunt Ballroom, Saturday. Talk to us about Farpoint and Beyond, this amazing drag show, which I'm definitely going to be there. So I want you to tell the folks why they got to be there.
So I'm so excited. So it's been, pardon me. It's been sort of like since I started going to conventions. Oh my goodness.
That's okay, take your time.
This is why I take a sip. So ever since I started doing conventions, I a few years ago in 2018 won a cosplay competition called Captain Green Lantern.
Yes.
And became really, really good friends one might even say best friends, with Dax exclamation point, who is another drag queen and cosplayer.
Mm-hmm.
And we just sort of like bonded really quickly over our love of the X-Men and cosplay and fandom. And so we've just always been, you know, talking about like doing shows and just that's been sort of like our goal. And so last year, I guess the last con season that happened, we finally got to do one at KatsuCon.
Okay.
And I've been talking to Sharon from Farpoint, whom I'm sure everyone knows.
Yes.
So I've been talking to Auntie Sharon about doing a show, and when I saw her at AwesomeCon this year, which was like the first in-person convention.
Yeah, one of three that weekend.
Yeah. So when I talked to her, I was like, hey, I would really like to do a show. And she was like, absolutely, like, you know, it's our first one back, like, let's do it. Because so the previous one that was in person, it was sort of last minute, but the folks who usually do like the opening or like the entertainment at dinner, something had happened and they needed to leave. And again, I'm not 100% sure the reason why. I just remember maybe 2 weeks before the convention, Sharon called me or emailed me and was like, hey, so we don't have any entertainment for dinner. Would you like to do a show? Like, you know, would you like to perform at dinner? And I was like, sure. And so I did sort of like a one woman show at dinner. It was a little bit of a hot mess because I wasn't super prepared because as you said in my introduction, I host a cabaret called Eleanor's New Deal Cabaret. Yes. And I usually have a bunch of performers, and it's like talking in between is usually talking about like the other performers or, you know, other things. So like I hadn't quite like prepared myself or like cultivated okay, so this is like a one woman show and I'm going to be like talking, you know, the whole time. It's like I'm not getting like a break to go sit down. So it was a little chaotic, but I think people still enjoyed it and had a good time. So again, so I sang at the opening ceremonies, the last live Farpoint. And so anyway, so I was like, Sharon, I would really like to do like a for real show during regular programming.
Yes.
And so during all of this lockdown quarantine, I finally sort of discovered a drag family. So obviously Dax is a very good friend, a sister, but like I didn't have like a big like extended drag family. And so during lockdown, I entered a competition called it like super early, like probably March, like the end of March. Right. And I mean, we were locked down around like St. Patrick's Day. It was called Mixed Quarantine. And it was hosted by Logan Stone, who is a local DC drag queen. Come to find out that when I won Captain Green Lantern, Logan Stone was in the audience being like, hey, is this something that like I want to do? Because Captain Green Lantern is run by LGBTHQ, which is a queer comic fandom organization. And so anyway, so in doing that competition, I just made this amazing like drag family. Like literally once the group chat started on Facebook, it hasn't stopped. Like even though that competition ended in May of 2020, again, I was literally just talking to them, sending them pictures of this, being like, about to do an interview, you know, whatever. So there's some of my dearest friends. So joining me all weekend at Farpoint is going to be Logan Stone. Logan's going to come with me. She is a nerd just like the rest of us, which is amazing.
Excellent.
She's more so like I'm like comic books, especially like old comic books. She's more like video games, Pokemon, Steven Universe, like a lot of newer stuff, which again is great. all different fandoms. She is still a Star Trek nerd, which is also great.
It is actually great.
And so Logan was like, yeah, I really want to get into more cosplay and going to conventions. And so I was like, well, why don't you come with me for like the whole weekend? And then two of our other friends, CharlamagneChateau and TiffanyDCarter, they're going to be joining us on Saturday at the show. They have another gig that morning, so they're literally going to like speed up from DC and like, again, everybody pray to like the weather gods and traffic gods. It could just be me and Logan Stone. However, we're going to have a good time. We're going to turn it out. Even if I have to just turn on my YouTube and like pull out some music, we're going to have a good time. Now, I will tell you, so because, you know, we've already been in talks with, you know, the sound folks at Farpoint. So we've already turned in our music. These numbers that these performers have put together for you guys are not only like nerdy and entertaining, but some of them are like some of the stupidest things ever. They're going to be so funny. We have, so I'm going to be doing LwaxanaTroi for the entire show, just to give the other performers time to change in between their numbers. And it's just easier if I just stay in character.
Of course.
And again, LwaxanaTroi, I mean, she's it. She's the moment. But so we have some more Star Trek being shown. We have some video games. We have some XMen. We have some Sesame Street, which is very, you know, on the nose right now. And some like Netflix TV shows that are also popular. So we have like a good mix of like good pop culture references and cosplay and also just entertaining fun. So when I say things are like stupid, especially referring to drag, in like our circle, it is a huge compliment to be like, oh my God, that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. It just means that it's silly, it's entertaining, it's on point, it is just a good show. And again, these performers are bringing out some good stuff for you guys. So I am so excited for us to perform for the people at Farpoint.
And I'm so excited to talk to someone who brought something new to the convention. I remember it was 2008 that I brought the first game show to Farpoint, which was Jeopardy. And here I am, I'm hosting a brand new game show, which I'm not going to reveal to everyone.
Oh!
You know about it, but it's going to be at Sunday at 11. So if you like game shows, definitely come and join me out.
Okay.
This is another segue, great question, since we talk about our nerdom, our fandom, our families when it comes to fandom. And I'd like to know, what does going to conventions mean to you personally?
So, as I said, I had only been to one or two conventions before winning Captain Green Lantern and like really starting to like go to conventions and be a part of like the sort of like con life. I will say I love going to conventions because first of all, I mean, again, for people who know me or follow me on stuff, I love getting in drag. Like I love getting dressed up. I love being sort of like entertaining. But also like being at a table, being at booths, because that's really like my con experience. Because I'm usually I'm not a person who like goes to a convention and like walks around. I'm a person who like works at a convention, which again, but it's not really work to me. It's like that's the part of like the life. I love meeting new people. I love talking to people. I love sort of introducing people to like the weird Z-list cosplays that I do. I love talking about nerd stuff. I mean, so my very first day at my very first Farpoint, I wore a character. Pardon me one second, but this mask is itching my nose right here, and it is driving me insane. Oh my God. Okay.
All right.
So, at my very first Farpoint, on the very first day, I wore a character. Her name is Tangerine, and she has appeared in 2 issues of Excalibur, Marvel's Excalibur in 1993.
Wow.
I was like, I just love this character. I think she has a cool design. So I wanted to wear her. And a person that that's it. Again, for those of you who have been to Farpoint, Friday is definitely a day for people to just to kind of like get there and get settled. Like things don't really start happening until the dinner opening ceremonies. I mean, there's people around, there are panels, there are things, but most people are like getting there and like sort of like finding their spot, sitting down, setting things up.
Yeah.
So the next day, I was on a panel and we were talking about, I'm trying to remember which panel it was, but I think we were just talking about like how cosplay develops character or something. Again, I'm not 100% sure what it was. It was a while ago. But someone in the audience started talking about how their first cosplay that they ever did with their husband was Kitty Pryde and Pete Wisdom from Excalibur. And I was like, oh my God, like you do Kitty Pryde and Pete Wisdom? Like, I love Excalibur. Excalibur's my thing. It was like, yesterday I did Tangerine. And she was like, full stop, you do Tangerine? And I was like, yes, I do Tangerine. I'm like, I'll show you pictures on my phone, like once the panel is over. And so like finding those people who like are just like the same nerd as you are, if that makes sense. Like that's like always, yeah, like, that's I love that. Also at that Farpoint, again, like there's so many just like fun con stories. But like, so again, my first Farpoint, I was just a snowbird from Alpha Flight. So I'm a giant drag queen. I have giant hair, like, and I'm like an all white. And the guest that year was Wallace Shawn, who most people know as Inconceivable from Princess Bride, or the teacher from Clueless. Again, all the names of these characters just falling out of my brain. But anyway, so Wallace Shawn was there, and he is just this delightful little guy, and I'm huge. And my table that I usually get is right across from the ballroom. And so like the celebrity tables are usually like at the end of that hallway. So as he's being walked by with his handler, this is, so if my camera is me, this was him. Ooh. And then just kept walking. And I was like, oh my God, Wallace Shawn, I love your work. I was like, oh my God, I love you. Like those like little things are just so much fun. It's just like, again, I love talking to people. I love meeting people. And also for a lot of people at conventions, they don't necessarily know drag. They don't like know any like drag people. I think it's also important to represent LGBTQIA, the community at conventions.
Absolutely.
Because it is a very cis straight space sometimes. Now, I have only been introduced to conventions through queer groups and through queer people. So like it's still a very queer experience for me, just because that's usually the type of people that I'm surrounded by when attending. However, I will say I have had some negative experiences, and I feel like in those negative experiences, I hope I wasn't too rude, but like I try to like make it a teaching moment for the other person, being like, no, like I'm still here and I'm still a part of this nerd community. I'm still a part of this. For example, like one of my least favorite experiences that I've had at Farpoint, and I did talk about it that day because it had literally happened that day. So it was the Friday of the last Farpoint that happened. And again, so that was also the night that I had like my one-woman show. So guess who got blasted on stage? I literally had just walked off the elevator. So I have one of the cosplays that I have is just the basic like 1991 XMen uniform, where it's just like the yellow down the middle and then the blue sides. So like every X-Man or X-Man adjacent person has sort of worn that costume. So again, it fits anyone. So I decided that I was going to dress as Dr. Moira McTaggart. So anyway, I'm wearing this cosplay. I get off the elevator, and this gentleman stops me and he's like, I don't know who you are. And I went, oh, I'm Dr. Moira McTaggart, you know, from the XMen. He's like, oh, well, she's never worn that before. And I was like, actually, she helped design these uniforms in order to like put the sheer technology inside the uniform, so that way they would like keep you warm when it was cold outside or keep you cool when it was hot outside. And she was one of the first people to then like wear the redesign when she was part of the Muir Island XMen, when Muir Island was attacked by the Reavers. But you know, I'm like, I could give you issue numbers if you really want, but like, no, she helped design these. And he was like, oh, well, I didn't know that. And I'm like, well, I did, which is why I wore it. Like the whole like gatekeeping part of it, and then that same guy was at a panel that I was on about it was about movies that are terrible but we love them, which was a super fun panel to be on, by the way. That panel was a lot of fun. But he was there and he kept interrupting us, like the people who were on the panel, and like talking over us. And so finally, because the moderator was not saying anything, I finally said, oh, do you know what? It's great that you have opinions and stuff. However, we've all been asked to be here and talk. You were not. So if you would really like to be a part of the programming experience here at Farpoint, maybe you should talk to Cindy or Sharon about being a part of a panel next year. But like right now, this is about us talking. You know, you're free to ask questions, but like, too much, sir. So anyway, as I said, like, I hope that I don't get like, because I'm trying to be like more conscious of that. And I hope to like, I mean, I want everyone to have a good time. However, it's still like and also he definitely, that gentleman, definitely talked over myself, who's a female presenting person, as well as another woman who was on the panel. And it just became very obvious to me that he was just talking over the ladies. Which again, happens a lot, and which is super frustrating. Which again, as someone who is a little more like on the gender fluid side, it is interesting that I definitely get interrupted and talked over and sort of like made to feel like I don't know what it is that I'm talking about when talking about like fandom or nerd culture when I'm in drag, which is interesting to me. Again, people definitely like to gatekeep like the fake geek girl kind of thing.
Unfortunately,
So anyway, I will say, of those two experiences, that is like the very small amount of experiences that I have at conventions. Other than that, I genuinely love to go and have a good time and meet new people and talk to people, and you know, hopefully introduce people to maybe characters that they don't know, or have them tell me about, you know, their cosplay, or tell them about you know, talk to them about drag or nerd stuff, or you know, just kind of like whatever. So with that being said, for those of you coming to Farpoint, please come by. I will have a table with Logan and the other performers, Charlamagne and Tiffany. I believe we'll probably still be in the same spot that I typically am, which is right across from the ballroom. So please come by, please say hello. You know, we're gonna be there. Of course, we've got merch to hawk, so if you want to, you know, get something cute, you can do that as well. But for the most part, we're just gonna be there hanging out and just wanting to talk to people. So come say hi.
Oh, definitely. And Amanda, I really do appreciate you sharing that story. I'm sorry that you had to go through that negative experience. In 27 years I've gone to conventions, I have rarely had any negative experience. For you to share that, I do applaud you. And I honestly tell you, if I was moderating a panel and that happened, it's like, excuse me, sir, they're paneling, you're listening, just keep it down a notch. And it's
like,
rude.
and like that's kind of the thing. Like it's sort of like when you go to a comedy show and there's like someone who like starts talking from the audience. It's like, we didn't come here to listen to you, buddy. We came here to listen to the people who are like here. And again, I feel like, again, I don't know because I don't know this person, but I feel like he's one of those like super like old school attendees who's been going to Farpoint for couple decades or whatever, which is, again, fine. You know, I'm sure people might know who he is. If you want to know who he is, I can, you know, DM people his description. I'm sure people who go to Farpoint know who he is. But again, don't let those negative experiences like sort of like cloud the whole thing. And I don't want to talk about it anymore just because like
understandable.
But because like, again, I have such a good time. I love going to conventions.
Yes.
It is like, again, I'm also a crazy person. I will get up every day at 6 o'clock to put this face on in order for me to be down at the con floor, just because I want to experience as much of the convention as possible. Like, I'm not someone who wants to go down at like 2 o'clock when it closes at 5. Like, if I'm not down there by like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and usually they give me at least one panel at like 11 or so. In fact, I think my 11 o'clock panel is on Saturday. But anyway, like, I want to be on the floor. Like, I want to be on the floor. I want to see people. I want to experience the you know, the whole thing. Another amazing experience. So my first year going to Farpoint, when I first did Lwaxana, I got on the escalator that takes you down to like the ballrooms and like the salons.
Yeah.
So I was going down the escalator as Lwaxana, and someone got on the up escalator as Jean-Luc Picard, and he saw me and he went, and he turned around on the up escalator and like ran back down and ran away. And I was like, oh my God, yes, that's the best. And I kept going, Captain, where are you going? And like that, and so like that like made my day. I was like, yep, this is the exact right cosplay to wear to this convention. Today is going to be a good day. It's going to be a good time.
Yes.
Yes, most definitely.
Absolutely. Well, I got time for one more question if I can kick. Oh, that's a great story. I love the stories. All right. Composure, Dean. Composure. Got one more question to get through. All right, here we go. So the last question is, we got to talk about your triumphant return to the New Deal Café in Greenbelt next month, March 27th. So talk to us about the triumphant return of this cabaret.
So, very excited. So, I've been doing the New Deal Cabaret, Eleanor's New Deal Cabaret since 2017.
Wow.
I believe. So it started at the New Deal. We've eventually gone to a couple of other different venues. So we're very excited to finally come back to the New Deal. The New Deal is now under, now has like a new menu. They've done a lot of upgrades during lockdown and done some like remodeling. And so we're finally coming back, and I decided that to do a big comeback, we're going to kind of change up the show. So the show started out as me and my musical theater friends just getting up and singing songs, which is great and entertaining, and everyone, you know, it's a good time. Yeah. However, after being like more immersed in the drag community, I was like, I need more drag, but the New Deal especially, and I, again, wanting to do something different, was like, well, but I want drag performers who either play instruments or sing like I do. And so this show is going to be a mix of my drag family and my theater family, and we're doing a lot of like fun duets with like intermixing like those sort of things. We're going to do some group numbers. So I have, again, joining me is Logan Stone, who plays the violin, CharlamagneChateau, who plays the flute, Emerald Star, who sings, and I believe that she wants to do a tap number. We'll see. It could be interesting. But also, so 2 returning cast members who have been at a lot of the shows are Ben Simpson and Becky Norris-Kuhn. And then 2 brand new faces to Eleanor's New Deal Cabaret are Gabriel Gray and Sarah Gravel. Sorry. I almost said her her maiden name. Anyway, yada yada yada. So we're really excited. We're trying to, and we're also going to be accompanied on piano by Wilder. So I'm just excited. So we've been like in our Facebook group, been talking about the different numbers that we want to do, making sure that like we have a good mix of duets. And of course, everyone's still going to be doing some solid solo numbers. I'm just very excited to get back to the New Deal.
Absolutely.
I will say this with the New Deal Cafe, because of the way that like they're funded through their co-op with the actual like New Deal, hence they're called the New Deal Cafe. They can't charge a cover for any of their live music events. So, but the New Deal Cafe was ranked a few years ago in the top 25 best live music venues in the United States.
Oh wow!
It is a super fun time. It's a very like it's a very like I guess like private. It's like a small little area, and so you get more like of an intimate show. However, because we can't charge a cover, everything's based on tips.
Okay.
And I wanted to make sure that like these performers are getting compensated after these 2 years that we've had, really talking about like equitable pay and, paying performers, paying for art. So if those of you who are out there maybe aren't able to come to the show and you still want to support live music, live theater, drag, just art in general, on my social media, there is a link to a GoFundMe to help make sure that everybody's getting at least a little bit of a stipend. And there's information. So if you go to any of my social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you can go to my bio, find a link tree, and in there is a link to the GoFundMe. So again, if you can't be there in person to tip, it would be great if you could tip and support. And I'm gonna try to get someone there to film some of the numbers that we can then post on social media. So those of you who contributed to the GoFundMe, you'll still be able to see some of the numbers that we did that night. Just because, again, I'm so excited for just something new, something different, and combining my love of drag and musical theater.
Absolutely. And DManda, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us about your cabaret, your new show is coming up next week. So happy to meet you, and I'm so happy to talk to you, and I cannot wait to physically meet you next weekend.
I'm so excited too. I'm just so excited to get back to Farpoint.